We are here to talk about some proposed changes to our drought contingency plan, and then, of course, listen to you, the community, as we understand. There's questions, there's comments that you want to make. I would also like to say, what is a drought contingency plan? A drought contingency plan is a business plan. It's an emergency action plan. So we have this plan. We've spent quite a bit of time listening to the community. We have talked to a various number of groups. So, for example, we've talked to pool associations, we've talked to landscapers, we've talked to the real estate associations, we've talked to irrigators. So it's important that we have a plan that we
What the community to know is that we have a plan and that we have multiple sources of new water identified for possible development in our community.
That we have a plan that we feel and hope is equitable. Our community is very conscientious of water, and we get that. And our community certainly uses water very effectively. And so I just want to take a moment and say that we really do appreciate the work that our community does. We are here to listen tonight. We want to hear your voices. And we certainly want to make sure that we have a plan, an action plan, a business plan that certainly understands the needs of the community.
Just so you know, and whoever's monitoring how this discussion is going to play out, we are in a drought. Therefore, you guys are required to do a drought contingency plan that has now been expired for 2 years. So you need that to be done so you can get your permits. So let's just make sure that the community knows that. That's why there's a rush now to get this done, because you guys didn't rush to get it done when we were in stage 1 restrictions, nor did you rush to get it done when we were in stage 2 restrictions. Just today at Nueces County Commissioner's Court, Brent Chesney admitted to and said, because industry is fighting to pay their taxes in Nueces County, they've almost bankrupted our county. Now they're appealing and suing the city of Corpus because we raised their rates last year.
Ms. Caballero, your time's up.
The current takeover at the national level of our treasury records by the world's wealthiest businessman, who is non-elected, shocked me and pushed me to come out here tonight. Here in our city, we can and need to demonstrate balance. We have some of the richest corporations in the world located here. They will not pay more willingly. That is not in business's DNA. But they certainly use and want more water. Water is now a precious commodity. We are asking you, as our representatives, to push them towards more cooperation by paying higher rates.
I would also like to thank For the Greater Good for bringing these issues to the attention of the council for the past 10 years. If they had listened, we wouldn't be here. If they hadn't been treated like dirt, we wouldn't be here. This plan is just checking a box for the TCEQ so that you all can get your permit. We know that. As it was stated in these chambers in August of 2021, industry is taking about 80% of our water.
We have commitments to industry. And I don't mind saying that it is for industry. I think Steve, you told me that once Steel Dynamics and Gulf Coast Growth Ventures were up online completely, 80% of our water was going to go to industry.
Approximately. I mean, yes. So those are big users to our overall water supply.
And they obviously.
We hear 50, 60, 70, 80. There's no transparency, but they're taking the majority of the water. Mr. Molly, you're the third CEO that I meet in 4 years that I've been paying attention, the third.
I'm here as a representative for the Coastal Bend Fly Fishing Guides. We're calling for an end to the drought surcharge exemption for high volume water users and a clear trigger for water emergency based on the combined reservoir storage levels. We need resident first approach to our water issues in the city. Ending drought surcharge exemption fee and using a tiered surcharge approach based on usage will do more to conserve water than the current Every Drop Counts campaign. We question the city manager's judgment with respect to declaring a water emergency based on reservoir levels due to his comments on the Blake show last week, where he said our water supplies continue to dwindle, not because we oversold it or we're not moving fast enough on desal, it's just we're in a massive drought.
Water supplies continue to dwindle not because of we oversold it or we're not moving quick enough on desal, it's just we're in a massive drought.
But if you look at the UNL drought monitor, USGS water level data, historic rainfall for the Nueces River Basin, it's clear as day. The 2011 drought was way more extreme compared to present conditions, yet our reservoirs are 2 to 3 times more depleted than they were in 2011.
Non-commercial ratepayers curtailing our water use cannot get us out of this drought, so the DCP needs to be updated to reflect that. There needs to be tiered surcharge pricing for high water usage, higher surcharge fees in general for high volume users, and an end to the drought exemption fee for industry, as they should no longer be able to opt out of taking responsibility for their contributions to this water crisis.
When we're talking about residents and concerned about residential water rates, we're concerned about the people that just got off work, have kids, have responsibilities, and aren't here today to give their input. They're only going to find out about the DCP through their bill and rate increases when it's going to financially and economically impact them. Industry having exemptions and getting favorable variations and options in the drought contingency plan, that's on top of their industrial tax agreements, that's on top of their lower water rates, and that's on top of them using the water that put us in this situation. The water fountains at the park aren't even on. Like, those are for people that want to go for walks, or even the pet ones don't work during these drought restrictions. Who determines what's essential and not essential? Because we got into this situation because of poor mismanagement of our water.
End the exemption for high volume water users, establish mandatory triggers for us going into stage 4 water restrictions, so that these industrial high volume water users can stop sucking up the resources that belong to us, the people.
I think it is very telling of who you are listening to when there was a city official going on a public radio station calling us the anti-anything crowd during a Blake Farenthold radio show. We have the receipts.
I'm upset about this water thing. I assume that was the bulk of the public comment.
Yeah, I don't know if it was upset. And you have the normal anti-anything crowd that just, think they didn't have enough input.
And so for you to publicly say that, I think we all know who it is. Their first name starts with a P and their last name starts with a Z. And when in fact I am for smarter water conservation. I am anti-selling our water to big industrial build-out. Nothing is more frustrating than going down the street, making my morning runs, seeing another quick quack car wash being built out.
Our conservation as residents has been growing at a positive rate, but has our situation improved? No, because we have oversold and overpromised our water to industry. Let's take a resident-first approach to the DCP and listen to us. While it hurts to beg, our pride in our lives is stronger than your greed.
When there is an option for some people, right, the surcharge is the consequence for violating the restriction. If you have a class of customer that is able to bypass that, that is a de facto exemption. They face no consequences for their violation. We are not anti-everything. We are pro-transparency, and part of that I think also can start with industry providing their conservation plans, because again, that is not something that we as the public have access to. I'm really happy actually for the small business owners who are able to find some relief, but something that really bothered me that our city manager said is, like, these folks came up and said, y'all are killing us. And obviously I empathize with that. I'm very happy that they're getting the relief, but we have been coming for 10 years saying that you are killing us, and you have done nothing.
I'm here to request that the public be given more than 2 weeks to participate in this process. The proposed surcharge fees are also too low. They will cause rates to go up. Please figure out a way to stop penalizing water customers for conservation. Add a tiered pricing system based on usage. The city should have already started limiting industrial and wholesale water use fairly, according to the Texas Water Code 11.039. which states water must be divided among customers pro rata, so everyone suffers alike. City council members who are here, industry does not have conservation plans. If they do, we haven't seen them. The DCP is the only mechanism we have to force these industries to cut back in significant ways. Mr. Malley, you said yourself that residents are using less water per capita than most Texans. We've cut back 10% since 2022, while large volume water users have only cut back less than 6%, and wholesale consumption continues to go up.
Take the time to take us seriously, go through these things, and don't just follow protocol according to TCEQ. Everybody knows that that's a notorious rubber stamping agency. You need to hold yourself to higher standards, to the community standards, our standards. They're much higher. We pay you. This is our water that you're managing.
I'm here today because we need a residents first DCP. There also needs to be higher surcharges for large volume users and an end to any sort of exemption for heavy industry. It literally blows me away that our reservoirs are at 20% and we're not in stage 4. How could we mismanage this that bad?
Representative government is meant to be a partnership, an agreement according to which we all live, and the Drought Contingency Plan is a prime example of this. This is how government of the people, by the people, and for the people is supposed to work. Specifically, I remain opposed to the language that bans hand car washing, which uses less than 5 gallons of water if done correctly, while placing no restrictions on automated car wash companies in the city, one of which uses 350,000 gallons of water each day, and incentivizes excessive car washing by offering a flat monthly fee for unlimited washes. By this provision, CC Water is playing favorites, choosing winners and losers by favoring these businesses over mobile car washes. I ask that this language be reconsidered. My second concern is about the drought surcharge and exemption provisions, specifically the language that extends the exemption for 5 years beyond any cessation of the surcharge. This language is so favorable to corporate industry and so unfavorable to the city that I recommend that any city personnel responsible for creating and/or approving this language in 2018 or since be reassigned away from any such work on this document or similar documents in the future.
It says that you're going to call the 10 largest water users, but that's all that it says about the large water users. And what are you going to say to them? Please, please, please stop the way we're begging you? That's not acceptable. We've been asking for having a conversation for years about this. We slowed the drought contingency plan discussion in 2023 when Sylvia and Jim were elected. We've asked for meetings with you all and you've denied us for the greater good. People who've been paying attention to this stuff since 2016. I also want more transparency. You can list the lake levels every single day. How about listing the water, the rainfall rates in 3-year continuums? And also how about listing how much water heavy volume water users are using and having that same kind of metric, because they're the ones that are responsible for our crisis. Well, next to you all for making the bad choices
Thank
about
you,
selling our water. Thank you.
I've been a District 5 resident for more than 20 years. I've watched the previous occupants of these chairs do some marvelous things to mismanage our water system. We've lived with almost complete lack of infrastructure maintenance and loss of thousands, if not millions of gallons of water. We built water towers that we couldn't use because our city system wasn't capable of standing the pressures that they produced. And our drought exception policies don't appear to be affecting the behavior of our large industrial customers or those who are out offering our oversold water. Having reviewed the draft DCP, one must wonder, can our drought contingency plan provide a means at stage 3 or stage 4 to tamp down what we're hearing, what we're seeing, the obvious overselling of water to new incoming industrial users? But I couldn't possibly suggest or ask that that happen. Thank you.
When I got back here, I was pretty vigilant about the water. Your data showed from the front page of the City Council website, so I could go on and see what water levels were. In the middle of rainstorms, I was watching the water level in our reservoir fall. I was questioning what the hell was happening and the mismanagement of the people who were in charge of such a valuable asset for this community. I'm absolutely outraged with how the mismanagement has happened at every single level of our stages. You need to go back to the drawing board, I think, on a lot of how you're doing things.
You're right. It is a business plan. I think that's the only honest statement I've heard from a city official in years.
A drought contingency plan is a business plan.
It's entirely a business plan. Big business. Public doesn't even rank it all on the list. Not at all. It's entirely for industry, for big business. A plan written by them, for them, that exempts them. I've lived here for 12 and a half years, and I'm disgusted at how the public has been totally sold out to industry here. Totally, 100%. Quit acting like you work in the public interest. You do not. You work for industry, you're agents of industry. That's what you are. I've watched for years how our lake levels have gone down. For the last 5 years in particular, you've let industry literally suck our lakes dry. And yet you have the audacity to put the public under water restrictions when industry is the #1 user, by far the #1 user of water resources in this area. The public only uses 16% on an annual basis, yet we come under strict restrictions and industry comes under no restrictions whatsoever. No more of that. Quit lying to the public. We've had it. Who wants to come to an industrial wasteland where all you see, for the first things you see coming into town, is mile after mile after mile of nasty, polluting industry? Who wants to see that as a tourist? Nobody in their right mind would.
It is well known by anyone who follows the decisions of City Council that many members sitting on the diocese favor the interests of industry over the needs of the residents. The Drought exemption is perhaps the most blatant example of the City Council putting profits over people. It is time to ask industry to pay its fair share and end the Drought exemption.
I have sat here and listened to these people tell you all the same thing over and over and over again. But I've listened to them say the same thing over and over. This is a waste of time. You guys are being hypocrites about this. This is going to kill us. Do you think this is a good idea, really, for anybody in Corpus Christi, for any South Texas, for anybody who relies on the Gulf of Mexico? Anyone. Nobody benefits from this, except for y'all and Valero. I'm sure in 10 years, when we're all, whatever our government's going to be, when we're all struggling and we're all miserable and whatever, I'm sure we're all going to be comforted by the fact that Valero made a 2% profit increase that year.
In the first draft of the drought contingency plan, some charts were presented that were a bit misleading. It was stated that CC Water used only 85 million gallons of treated water. However, later in the meeting, it was clarified that there's an additional 30 million gallons of water, of raw water, that is also being sold. Along with that, it was also stated that there was an additional 20 million gallons of water that are being withdrawn from the river by San Pat, Water District Number 3, and occasionally from Celanese and Flint Hills. Why was the additional 50 million gallons of water not included in this chart? What was the purpose of excluding that? All this water comes from the same source, so there should be a number, a whole number, not just treated water, raw water, or soil water. If we cannot trust your presentations, how can we trust your drought contingency plan? As our situation is dire today, it's going to get worse. Avena is slated to pull 5.5 million gallons of water as soon as they break ground, and the owner was there today on site, so that will be soon. Situations like this, awarding Avena 5.5 with more water anytime they want, no caps, no limits, is what is putting us in this situation. We don't have 5.5 million gallons of water to give them today, much less give them 6 million, 7 million.
I was looking through the drought plan, and I know you mentioned, Mr. Molly, the surcharges that are being proposed. And, even though I think it was stage one, $1 surcharge per 2,000 gallons, I think, we might all think, oh, that's insignificant. But I'm here to tell you it's not. My day job, I am the Outreach Disaster Coordinator for 211 Texas, and I looked at our data for the last 4 or 5 years. For Corpus Christi alone, since 2019, we have had over 3,000 requests yearly for utility bill assistance. That's your water and your gas bill. My concern is routinely they can't pay their water bill every month. So adding these surcharges is only going to add to that crisis that we're in. We also have agencies, the 4 that help with water bills are paused right now because of federal funding issues. So we don't have places to refer people.
I think in the future, though, it'd be great if this was announced earlier. For example, like announcing it during the city council meeting when the new DCP was presented would be helpful. Let's see, after today's meeting, city staff will only have 2 days to update the DCP before the agenda for the next city council meeting is due. I think that's too short of a timeline. It'd be nice if it was longer. That way, more meaningful input could be incorporated into it, right? The drought contingency plan, in the language of the plan, it says that measures will dramatically cut water consumption in order to conserve water supplies. And from what I can tell, this plan does not do that. My main concern is if we do our part conserving water and y'all lose revenue, will we be penalized next year through higher water rates? Because that's a negative reinforcement, and I feel like we need positive reinforcement for conservation because we all really need to be conserving as much as we can right now.
If the drought surcharge exemption fee is left in the plan, please open it up to all rate classes so even residential customers can volunteer to participate in the plan. Thank you.
Surcharges for big industrial users are too low to discourage wasteful use, If the city doesn't charge industry enough, they will rise our rates on all of us later to make up for the lost revenue.
I'd like to stress again that changes to outdoor watering rules for residents need to be adopted urgently before we reach spring, which is arriving as we speak right now. This is when plants, trees, pollinators, our whole local ecosystem begins to need help from us to grow. If we fail to take action now and relax the watering rules and let residents water, we risk losing established trees and landscapes, which causes a domino effect. Worse air quality, erosion, contributions to our urban heat dome, which is already bad, habitat loss for wildlife and pollinators, increased fire danger, the list goes on and on.
The proposed regulations will disproportionately impact irrigation professionals, threatening our livelihoods and dismantling an industry that plays a vital role in our community.
Water is precious. We need it to live. Citizens need it to live, not to make profit. So our needs should come first and foremost. What I have learned, I'm not going to go through the drought contingency plan because what I've learned is we're never going to get out of it. In my second meeting here at the City of Corpus, there was the drought contingency plan being presented with all the water entities up there. Well, what's lacking in the drought contingency plan and all the efforts of all the entities is communication. Because while we may have stopped at CC Water from signing big contracts, other entities have not. They keep doing it, and they're moving forward. Avena is moving forward with their 5.5 million, which we have estimated is closer to 8. Tesla, CCEDC said we got the water, 600,000 gallons. We got it, no problem. Where if we're in stage 3? That came from the mouth of the Corpus Christi CCEDC. The Ropsdown Area Development is also another one. Now, those are entities that are with the City of Corpus and the City of Ropsdown. How are they not communicating with you guys on the needs of what's coming in? And at what point do we say we can't afford it anymore? It's a burden on our community. We need to figure out water for our community before we figure out water for anything else. And as far as, communication, everybody adopts your drought contingency plan. Every board meeting I've gone to, they're adopting yours. So yours has to be the one that makes the difference.
Here to speak on the proposed optional surcharges. I recognize that I own a building. It's a commercial building, and there's no activity being used at that facility. But each month, we say 2 months, my bill increases. There's no water usage, and on the block, there's no houses, only that building standing. So my question is, why am I being billed or surcharge?
There's some key concerns in this. The first I'm going to mention is that it expands the authority for the city manager. So far, I have just counted on page 4, 6, and 8. It expands his authority, and he already left this meeting after he got called out for bashing community members on the radio. So under this new plan, the city manager is unilaterally has the authority to impose or lift these drought restrictions, even if our reservoir levels don't match it, which I have problem with. Major water decisions should all have to go through council to ensure transparency and accountability. Second, the increased reliance on Choke Canyon and Lake Corpus Christi. This plan clarifies that our Colorado River rights are junior and can be cut off in a drought. While our contract for Lake Texana does not guarantee the supply, that means that we may hit these drought triggers sooner. In turn, you could be scaring the public and already pushing for us to have this inner harbor desalination plant. The other point that I haven't seen anything in this site is the enforcement side, the transparency on the enforcement. There's no clarifications on how you plan to enforce or the violators, identify the violators, and how you plan to fine it. I know the city staff mentioned that you're already overworked, so how do you plan to now designate these authorities to more staffers to be in charge of enforcing what you're proposing? We're clearly already running out of water, and the Inner Harbor Desalination Plant is not a catch-all to this solution.
The first thing is industry. Between 60 and 80% of the water is used by industry.
That comes out to 18.2 billion gallons a day. Okay? Do the perspective. Okay? And this council wants more industry. I don't understand that one. Residents, 500,000 in the coastal bend, 85 million gallons per day. Okay? And the council wants more people, more water. Okay? The hierarchy of wants and needs. Industry first, businesses second, residents third. We are spending our money
Thank you,
to
sir.
buy a
You've
desal
reached your
plant
time.
that the water we will never use because you want more industry.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time this evening. We appreciate you taking the time to come out and share with us. This concludes our program.
If you're still around, thanks for watching so far. What I'm going to go over next real quickly is the PowerPoint presentation that CC Water is going to be presenting at this next City Council meeting on February the 11th. So yeah, this is on the city website on the City Council agenda. So yeah, this will be presented on Tuesday, and it's in, response to this public input session. So you see here's the timeline. The public input session was this past Wednesday the 5th. Note they didn't say when they announced it. They announced it on the 31st, not the 28th when they presented it. So yeah, not a lot of time for public input or for them to really implement any of the stuff that you heard in this video, all the public comments that were given. There was over 30 people that gave comment. And yeah, so these are the changes. The first ones, these first couple slides don't really matter because they're for the first 2 stages of drought that we aren't even in right now. Here's some changes to irrigation in the pools. I'm not really going to go over those. This one is that they did take Jim Klein's suggestion of adjusting the car wash rules, which is allowing people to wash their own cars with buckets, which, yeah. More changes to the pool rules. And then, yeah, the car wash right there. And then you see this just changed an optional measure for applications for new water meters and service connections. But once again, it's optional, and it's pushing it back from stage 3 to stage 4, which we aren't in. And these surcharges, these are the same surcharge amounts that were on the drought contingency plan at the meeting last Wednesday. So none of this changed after the meeting. They did change the threshold for residents, the residence gallon threshold, but none of the surcharges change. You see they didn't take away the drought exemption. There's still large volume users getting the exemption fee, 31-cent exemption fee, and wholesale surcharges are the same in emergency as residents, $4. And so you see the staff is recommending that the City Council approve this at this council meeting on Tuesday, the 11th. So yeah, I know it's another public comment, but if you can make it out on Tuesday, you can give virtual in-person comment. We have a video on our YouTube channel on how to give comment, a tutorial on how to sign up, and you can also submit written comment. There's just giving the comment isn't the only benefit of doing it. You're on the official record. You get to directly speak to the city council and the meeting, the people on the live stream. You get to educate people, but you also get to hear other people's comments. You get to see some of the meeting unfold, see the city council members discussing things, asking questions. And then you also probably will meet some cool people at city council and see comrades, local comrades, and other people working and organizing things. So yeah, this council meeting this Tuesday, 11:30. Public comment usually starts around 11:45. If you can make it out, they're going to be presenting this, so we need people to stand up and say, they didn't listen to anything from this public input session. They didn't give enough time to even consider it and make any changes or implement anything. So yeah, they really need to take their time, get more input. Yeah, because this is not a resident first approach. They're just trying to pass this through. So it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, thanks for watching.